why didn't anybody tell me about this? I mean, I've lived on this fucking earth 2 decades and nobody told me that I can wake up. I have no doubt that I've grown several stages in my own understanding because I've been doing this for 50 years. I've been taking subjects and making them objects for a hell of a long time. And meditation does the same thing. And as you said, when you start talking about third tier, you almost always start talking about waking up or the spiritual component to all this. And by spiritual, I mean waking up is different from growing up. And the integral model includes waking up, growing up, opening up, cleaning up, and showing up. We've just been talking about growing up. But it does focus on waking up. And waking up is an important concept that I learned about when I was about 18 years old, when I read D.T. Suzuki's Essays in Zen Buddhism, which is a large 3-volume, terrific set. And when the day I finished reading that, I was infuriated for almost a week. I was so mad because he discussed this thing called Satori, which was you would get this realization and you'd realize you were one with absolutely everything that's arising anywhere. And this was the goal of Buddhist enlightenment, was to have this absolute ultimate unity consciousness. And the reason I was infuriated was I was going, why didn't anybody tell me about this? I mean, I've lived on this fucking earth 2 decades and nobody told me that I can wake up. I've been doing this all as a vast dream field and illusion. So I put waking up on my radar from that point forward and ended up, I've practiced various forms usually of Buddhism since I was 18 or 19. But that is one of the reasons that you get a kind of unity experience is that's when you've made virtually, at least as a temporary state experience, you've made almost every subject an object. So there's nothing but a vast emptiness left over. And you're one with all of that. And so I've always been tracking that waking up experience and looking how it was reflected in various developmental models. And most of them simply leave it out because most people, since the age of enlightenment, when they confused all forms of mythic religion with all forms of waking up. And when they threw out religion, they threw out spirituality, Satori, Zen, that kind of thing. All of it got thrown out. And that's why nobody told me about it. I went to Sunday school and got the typical amount of mythic Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy stuff. But waking up really is something that I would like to recommend people look into because the chances are they don't know much about it.
And this really is, and again, we're going to put a cap on this right now because you've been, again, so generous, but I just want to share that in my experience with you and the course that we had done previously, there's other parts of integral theory. We really have been focusing this conversation on one piece, which is that growing up piece, which is the kind of a framework that we can cognitively understand, gain a mental model. But what Ken is talking about and what I learned from him in terms of some of the other parts of integral theory and how he brought in the spiritual aspects through states and really mapped out the states of consciousness that we go through. It's actually a map, everybody. We can actually map out these different states, which is what his waking point was at 18. He's like, why haven't I learned any of this, right? And then to bring it into this kind of comprehensive mental model of integral theory is just remarkable. I mean, I'm just so honored to be spending this time with you because I think what you've done here is so comprehensive, and can really only be experienced, a lot of it, right? There's an experience of this, the experience of being alive. Yeah. And that's that other part to it that I think is just so unique about what you've done. And I just want to thank you, brother. You're such an amazing human on this planet, such a teacher to so many of us. And I'm glad that you're back on the optimistic side. That really makes me feel happy. I got to track you on that. And the fact that you're feeling like there's something good happening here should be a boon to all of us that's hearing this, because means that there's some things on the horizon that might be really good for us.
Right. Very much so. And particularly if integral follows the historical pathway that every major stage that we can check out has, when it goes from 8% to 10%, we will see a tipping point in culture. And that means that not everybody's going to wake up and say, oh, I want to see the works of Ken Wilber, but they will be using the cognitive capacities that this integral stage itself comes from. And so that simply means that if you want to see good news happening in the world in the future, just keep in mind that 10% tipping point for integral, because that's in itself just such a comprehensive grasp of anything that comes this way, in a sense, that we're going to start seeing those values of inclusion and true integration and true unity and a genuine oneness start to sweep the world. And that will involve the creation of various types of good that are enormously valuable. And the same thing that made Clare Graves call the whole stage second tier is what we'll see humanity on the whole buying into. And that's a good thing. That's an incredibly good thing. So your viewers can take that away.
Well, I mean, what's cool about this is that once you start learning this, you go down the rabbit hole and you start, learning about these levels, and then maybe some of your other work, the states and all the different parts of integral theory, you start to see that it's all in play all the time. And there are lots of people out there that are integral, that don't know it. They don't know the framework, but their mind and their lives have evolved in a way where they're already incorporating these qualities.
Right.
When you learn the framework, it can just expedite the process, because then you can understand, it's like you talk about maps. Before we had a map of this planet, it was really hard to get from here to Hawaii if you wanted to do that. But now that we have a map, we made it quite easy. That's what this is. You've given us a map that shows us how we wake up, how we grow up, and all those other ones, that you mentioned. There's like 5. Okay, so that's good. But I just want to thank you, my brother. We could go on forever. You've been so generous. We're going to get this out there. I want more people to hear about this work. So that way we can get to that 10%. That's the goal.
That's right.